You know, one of the things that I've mentioned at each of the sites, it's just been very interesting to hear this universally at each site. We were asked first off, well, why haven't we done this before? And we kind of laugh, at least I have, and I said, well, we do, but we never have taken it public and expanded it, because you work in your council, we've done things on a high adventure basis. But the second question was, and earlier in the summer when I was asked, it was one of those things I really put off, when are we going to do this again? And the momentum that we've developed over the summer and the things that I've seen, the response from the Forest Service, the very positive response that we've had from the communities and the press about what we're doing, what the Boy Scouts really stand for, it really says we need to look at ways to do this again. And one of the key things I know you were trying to emphasize here in each of the sites was the ability to leverage and take this home and do it at home.
Absolutely.
Council Lodge cooperation can do this at home.
Absolutely.
And the third thing I've heard, which really gets to your point about the guys pulling the wood, the slash out of the woods and into piles. People have told me this is the best, or the Arrow, best Boy Scout event, or both, they've ever been to. And I'll ask them, well, what have you been to? Well, I've been to a jamboree, I've been to a National Or the Arrow conference, I've been to Philmont or Northern Tier. I'll say, well, why is this such a big deal for you? And the response was, well, I always did those things for me, and I've been out here doing these things for other people. And it really is what we were trying to accomplish. So their reaction is kind of an indication of that.
Yeah, very much a reflection of what we had hoped. I think one of the things that we've done successfully as a national committee and an organization is we model things that lodges and councils can take back.
Right.
We started it, we built upon our strengths with the OA Trail Crew, the Wilderness Voyage, the OAOA, all committed to providing service. Adults said, when can we do this? When can we do this? Well, we responded to that by creating this opportunity. But we won't be successful unless we continue to help the forest and other public lands. And I too have had many conversations with both youth and adults that are here, that they're going back to their local council, they're going back to their section, they're going to organize service projects in their local area. And that's what we want to happen here. In scouting, we rely on public lands. Our troops rely on public lands for their troop and other high adventure programs. And if we're not good stewards of the land, those won't be available to us. And so this allows the Order of the Arrow to position themselves as the dominant conservation force within the Boy Scouts of America, setting the example and training the next generation to continue this.
I agree. I think the other thing that's really been impressive to me is just the fact that everyone that I've talked to, whether they're 14 or whether they're 45, or I've seen a few guys out here that are over 60 working hard and outworking many of the youth, they really have enjoyed the camaraderie of working together, meeting new people, and being able to do something together in a meaningful way, that they've developed this bond, this memory. And I know many of the guys have adopted pieces of the trail and said, I'm going to come back here and make sure that's okay.
Absolutely. Absolutely. In fact, some of the local scouts here in the Jackson area are talking about, well, maybe we ought to adopt Soda Lake as our campsite, that we're just going to keep it in good condition. And we're encouraging that. You know, when you put a week of sweat and sore muscles into an area, you develop a connection to that. And I believe that these people that have been participating, staff and participants, and probably members of the community that have come out and helped, when they go back, they're going to look at these trails differently, and they're going to say, this is my trail, and I'm going to help keep it in a condition that others can use. You
know, when I was in the 6th grade, which I won't tell you how long ago that was, I had a teacher that always had interesting comments that you would remember, you know, about various topics. And one of the things he said one day, as we were talking about economics and you being in the business you're in, he said, you know, whether you rent or whether you buy, you pay for the house that you occupy.
That's absolutely true.
But that whole issue is the economic side. And what we really were getting here is ownership. People are recognizing this property really is something I'm responsible for, and taking a piece of that and saying, I'm going to take care of it, rather than just view it as a tragedy of the commons and say somebody else will deal with it and take care of it. I just have to be passing through. And I think that's really been a huge benefit to this whole project.
I do too. I think, you know, there's a reason we call it public lands, because we all own this land.
Exactly.
And as owners, and in home ownership, in my line of work, home ownership builds strong roots in a community. It's better for everything that happens within that local area. And that's what happens when you come and you provide service in a public land environment like this.
Exactly.
You keep it as well as you can, maintain it, put it in a condition better than when you found it. You know, we've advocated that, you know, since we were tenderfoots, and this allows us to continue doing that.
Absolutely. What has this project and your involvement in this project meant to you?
Oh, it's, this is, I too believe this is probably the most meaningful scout and probably non-scout experience that I've had. Leading the roughly, you know, 300 staff members in the planning process, keeping us all focused on what we can do for the community has just been tremendously satisfying. We've made a difference, and I think when we first came in, we first started talking to members of the community and the Forest Service, they were a little skeptical of us. I remember the first meeting, we came in and we said, you know, we're with the Order of the Arrow, we're the National Honor Society, we've got all this great background and experience, and we want to bring 1,000 people to provide service here. Well, some of the projects that were offered up were pulling weeds, painting some picnic tables, cleaning up some campsites, and I said, no, time out. That's not going to work here. We've got people that really know how to work, they're responsible, they've got great experience. We need something meaningful, and this project has surpassed all of our expectations. It's made a difference. The Forest Service has recognized it. The community's recognized it. So in another 3 weeks, when we're all back home, you know, I think we're all going to look back and say, this ArrowCorps5 and this Bridger-Teton project changed a community, and changed how the community looks at scouting in the Order of the Arrow.
One of the things